Hey friends, so much to talk about. We're going to kind of do a recap of the State of the Union address, highlighting some of our favorite moments and highlighting the greater problem of just simply our loss of humanity, where we can no longer celebrate things that were obvious, things that we all should celebrate as Americans, not as Democrats or Republicans. So we're going to talk a little bit about that political divide. And then we want to talk about what's going on in Iran right now. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Is this, from a biblical worldview perspective, is this justifiable? We're going to get into a lot of those points in our podcast today. I hope you find it helpful.
Hey, welcome to the Ron Johnson Discipleship Podcast.
Good to be with you guys again. So much to talk about in our world. It seems like we can't keep up with everything on a week-to-week basis. No news on the Chicago Bears, but man, do we have news. I'm sorry, the Hammond Bears, but we have news on a lot of other fronts.
Yeah, you had a celebration yesterday, huh? Family celebration.
Okay, so my lovely wife, she's an amazing hostess, and decides we're gonna host this gender reveal.
Oh, you hosted it?
Yeah, at our house.
Oh, okay, nice.
Well, you've been a part of some big events, including your engagement that happened on my back patio. That's another story for another podcast. But anyway, we were gonna have this big spaghetti dinner, and then we started counting the number of people. There were 50 people that ended up showing up at our house, and we started thinking, 50 people with mobile spaghetti plates running throughout our house, including an assortment of...
Everyone's eating outside.
yeah, I wish we could have done that.
It was a little chilly yesterday.
So we toned it down a little bit, but we did have this gender reveal, and I learned something about my spiritual gift mix. I am not strongly prophetic, because every time there's a 50-50 chance on something, I end up on the wrong side of the issue. So I guess girl, and we found out, we did the whole cannon thing on the back porch and shot the stuff off, and turns out I'm going to have a little grandson, which is awesome. So that makes grandbaby number 10. Well, number 10, that was grandbaby number 10, but we got grandbaby number 11. It's also maybe
lose track.
Another gender reveal later.
Don't lose track, So what you're saying is, don't go to Vegas and bet on black.
No, if I ever start buying my ticket to Vegas, you tackle me. Both of you guys, do not let me wage any money. Not that that's a whole other topic too. Don't do that anyway. That's bad stewardship. But I know that the Lord would never have me do that, because my track record on 50-50 is disastrous. But anyway, speaking of disastrous, we just missed being able to squeeze the State of the Union in our last podcast. It happened right after we recorded, and so we missed being able to provide some commentary on that. But I said, speaking of disaster, I think it was a disastrous night for the Democratic Party, a shameful night, an embarrassing night. You know, President Trump set a record for the longest State of the Union. Surprise! That's really not a surprise. But I sat there, and normally I'm not the guy that's sitting there watching the whole State of the Union, but I didn't move for an hour and 45 minutes. I found it to be incredibly inspirational. I found it to be humorous. I found it to be eye-opening in terms of, Trump, in my opinion, is it was like a master class where he is at his best. I mean, it was political theater in terms of highlighting wins and creating moments for the Democratic Party to either be American or to be petty, I guess. And I felt like it was a big win for what he's doing, and a bad picture, a bad photo op for the Dems. Once again, I mean, they were on the last State of the Union that he did, they were seated most of the night and upset and protesting and holding signs and getting thrown out again. That one gentleman got thrown out for the second time. He's on a roll. But anyway, what was your take on? I know.
Well, I'm going to tell you my favorite moment, and you can tell me yours. I know you have a couple. Now, I didn't watch the whole thing. I struggle sometimes listening to Uncle Trump just go at it. But I did go back, and it was a little past my bedtime, but I did go back and watch some clip, most of the memorable clips.
Yes.
And he definitely turned into a production, which I wasn't, I don't know why I wasn't expecting. But my favorite part was when he introduced the helicopter pilot.
Oh man,
Slaughter. I forgot. I can't pronounce his last name.
Yep.
Who was shot? Who was part of the Maduro operation? Right. And he was shot 3 times. Still was functional, able to turn the helicopter around and take out the enemies, and just it was genuinely inspirational. I mean, there was a post about him about someone who knew him says he's the last person who would ever want to be recognized, but he's the first person who deserved it. And you watch the video of him receiving the Medal of Honor,
yeah,
and he just looked like he didn't want to be there.
he didn't want to be in the limelight. That made him feel uncomfortable, and yet he was at the point of the spear, the most dangerous place, leading that entire operation. That's where again I get inspired when I actually get to see the face of the men who are actually conducting this incredibly dangerous raid. It humbles me, it inspires me to see the strength. And again, the point being here, this man is standing up, having received 3 or 4 serious wounds to his legs, still recovering, and he stands up to receive that Medal of Honor, while so many others could not even acknowledge, by simply standing up and clapping and honoring him, could not even acknowledge his contribution. So, and then what was it? The one Navy pilot that shot down like 4 or 5. I think it was Soviet planes, Navy hero, over 100 years old or right thereabouts. And again, this guy that's, given his life for our country so that we could enjoy the freedom that we have. And, story after story like this, it's just like, man, touches your heart. And I love the way he does that. I love the way he brings in these types of individuals and really highlights them as being great Americans. That part really moves me to tears, when I recognize the contributions of these great people. How about the hockey team as well? Yeah. I thought that was incredible. And even there, it used to be we celebrated as Americans, we could celebrate our teams. And it just gets, it's very, very disappointing that if the president of the United States, no matter who he is, invites your team to the White House, now it's a political thing instead of just simply, hey, we're going to the White House, which is the center of our government, to be with the president who's our elected leader, and we're simply going to celebrate the accomplishments of a great team. Everything's politicized now, but I was so grateful that they showed up. There's something about hockey players too that I think resonates with Donald Trump and vice versa. Hockey players get knocked down, they get back up. The one guy had his teeth knocked out, and he's like, man, it's all about my country, and none of this political stuff. It's just like love America, love being able to have the privilege of being here, and that's inspiring. My favorite moment. My favorite moment. I got 2 favorite moments. I might have 3 favorite moments.
You just share about 5 other moments. So,
one of my favorite moments was after Donald Trump. This is not the favorite moment part, but points out that there's a 14-year-old girl who was being transitioned by public school officials without her parents' knowledge into transgenderism, which as a parent is the most horrifying thing in the world, to think that people you are trusting with the educating of your children are actually trying to do the impossible, which we know as Christians, turn your child, your daughter, into a boy, all this being done in a covert, secretive way to betray the trust and confidence of parents. And Trump just comes right down and highlights her. She's now going to Liberty University. She's been kind of extricated from all of that craziness. And he just talks about how we need to end, all the transgender madness. And then he turns to the Democrats. Everybody on the one hand, Republican aisle is standing up and cheering, and turning to the Democrats, and they're all just sitting there. And then he just says, "These people are crazy. These people are crazy." I mean, and they are crazy. How can you celebrate that behavior? And how can you go along? It just was mind-boggling to me. So I like the fact that President Trump is not afraid to call it as he sees it, and that might be offensive to some people. But I think in the environment that we find ourselves today, like we were talking about, this is not the Ronald Reagan America, where the great communicator, the State of the Union was to bring everybody together and celebrate American victories. That's just not the culture right now. There is a civil war even within our own Congress and within our own nation. And I think Trump is just championing. He's celebrating, folks. A return to basic common sense. Yeah. Like, this is crazy. I also loved if you can't get congressional leaders to agree that insider trading is a violation of American trust, and that it should be stopped, and that that's wicked and evil and a betrayal and all those things. And when he made the comment, "Hey, some of you are actually standing on this," I'm surprised. Did Nancy Pelosi stand? I'm thinking, oh my gosh, because again, Nancy Pelosi is the poster child of insider trading. And Warren Buffett, Nancy Pelosi did better on her stock trades than Warren Buffett, killed Warren Buffett. So we know, okay, wait a minute, something's really going on here that is really stinky. And Trump just called it out. I mean, here's the Speaker of the House who ripped up his State of the Union address a few years back, and now he's just calling her out. And that's the thing. The average American that's watching this, first of all, is irritated that congressional leaders are making themselves rich illegally. People come in with $100,000 net worth, and in a few years, they're $50 million, because of the illegal insider trading. I mean, we would all be in jail if that happened to us. So I think people are sick of it. So I happen to like it that he calls an ace and a spade a spade. And I thought that was really good. What was heartbreaking to me, and then maybe we can move on, but what was heartbreaking to me was when they highlighted the Ukrainian young woman who was just, senselessly murdered on that train. Her mother's still deeply grieving, and we can't even stand up for that because somehow that's political. Like, we don't have a basic moral compass anymore. In terms of what's right or wrong, what's evil, what's not evil, what's human and what's inhuman. And I came across something on social media that I thought was good. This was being cut and pasted. It says, your representative sat there stone-faced while a 100-year-old World War II veteran was honored. A man who nearly died so you could sit comfortably in your house and trash America on Facebook. They wouldn't stand. They wouldn't stand for a little girl who almost lost her life at the hands of an illegal alien. They wouldn't stand for American Olympians who brought home the gold. They wouldn't stand for 2 National Guardsmen awarded the Purple Heart. They wouldn't stand to say American citizens came before illegal aliens. Not one of these moments required agreeing with Trump. It required being human. But hatred is stronger than decency now. So answer this and don't dodge it. At what point does your hatred for one man become bigger than your respect for veterans, wounded soldiers, children, and this country? When does it stop being politics and start being petty? You can dislike Trump all day long, that's your right, but refusing to acknowledge American heroes because you don't like who's speaking, that's not resistance, that's spite. if you're defending that behavior, then be honest about it. Say it out loud. You matter less than my politics. Go ahead, I'm listening, because what they showed on national television wasn't disagreement. It was bitterness. It was hatred. And if you're okay with that, then own it. Hatred towards one person is ugly on people. So I thought that kind of summarized, I guess, my heart was just the divide. And when President Trump kind of set them up and basically said, you know, are we here to, how many would agree we're here to protect the interests of American citizens first and not the interests of those who are here illegally? Simple question on law and order. It's not saying we don't have compassion for people. In fact, he called out the Somali population for raiding, our country and for stealing our resources. And again, that took a lot of guts because we had a Somali representative that was right there. But he called it out. He laid the facts out. He talked about crime being at a record low in terms of murders and some of these kinds of things. I mean, he made his case factually. And at that moment, to me, it was it was a Trump masterclass on marketing, because he simply asked a question that all of us should have been able to rally around and say, yes, we want to put American citizens and their needs first. That's why you're elected. That's why there's a Constitution and all these things. But epic failure. And it showed where people are at. And that I guess, was eye-opening, not surprising for me, but obviously concerning. I mean, we can't survive as a nation if this cancer continues to go on the way that it is. So I'm concerned about the future. Not to mention, we didn't even talk about the fact that, 72 elected officials didn't even show up for the State of the Union, which is, again, a centerpiece of, American public policy. I mean, this is where we all come together and talk about what's going on in our nation. And then to not show up, and then to find yourself dressed in frog uniforms and frog costumes and giraffe costumes, which were some of the alternatives to the State of the Union. This is what I don't know if you saw that. It looked like a PBS on cocaine, man. It was wow. What are you people thinking? I mean, it was just a joke. Absolute joke. So anyway, I rambled on there for a little bit, but I don't know if you have any...
I just thought, I know there's times in which I dislike somebody so much that I just want to disagree with everything they said. I can't, whatever they represented or whatever team they're on, I just don't like them. I mean, a lot of times it's sports people, I just don't like this player. He goes whatever team. Like, I no longer like those teams. I understand that emotions. But I also can acknowledge I'm being petty. I'm not being objective. Right. I'm being a sore loser. I'm acting emotional. I can acknowledge that in that moment. The reason I don't like this show or this movie he's in or this team he's in is because I don't like him. It's not because the director's bad or the team is bad.
Acting's bad.
Acting bad, whatever. I just don't like him, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I can admit that. I think this is what's happening right now. I think they truly hate Donald Trump. I think it's also a power play because they can play off of that hate, and because they don't have an agenda. The agenda they have is against Donald Trump. It's interesting, on my phone, I have these ads that pops up on YouTube, and I'm getting a lot of Illinois representative ads. I don't know if you're getting any of those.
It's so funny that you're going there.
Skip, and it won't skip. I'm like, oh my goodness, so annoying.
Yeah, I'm not dealing with it on my phone. I'm trying to simply veg out and watch a college basketball game. Yeah. And all of these political ads from Chicago make me want to grab the TV and throw it out the window, because I'm like, you people are idiots. Every one of them. All they're running on, we hate Trump.
Well, that's
we're going to fight Trump.
You can hear him talk about the things and to oppose Donald Trump. Not oppose a particular issue, not talking about the alternative, but it's a viable agenda they have right now. They're competing to be because they're fighting for the Democratic primary. That's what they're doing. But what that tells me is they basically had descended to the high school rivalry. I don't like them because she's mean to me, and that's.
But when your agenda, the point being, when your lead agenda is, I'm going to fight Donald Trump. I mean, that's your lead agenda. I mean, it shows you're not fighting for anything. You're fighting against a personality that you don't like, but you don't have any substantive policy initiatives that you're trying to put forward. You think that one issue is going to do it. And we've seen this every single thing he does. Like, we've seen all the memes too. Like, if Donald Trump finds a cure for cancer, Democrats oppose. Donald Trump's for oxygen. Democrats are going to, suffocate. Yeah. I mean, it's just. There's nothing he could say or do that would have anybody, like you point out, even in rational common sense, you go, okay, I can agree with that, even though it's coming out of your mouth and I don't like you. We can't even get there, which shows you just how broken we are.
It's very high school-y. I understand it because I've been there, but these are elected representatives who's supposed to enact policies for the greatest nation in the world. That's where we're at. So even though I understand the emotion of it, at this level, highly, highly inappropriate and destructive to the nation. So
yeah, it really is. It shows a low spot for sure, a low level in our elected officials in terms of wisdom, common sense, civility, all of these things.
Again, you're representing the greatest nation, the most powerful nation, the wealthiest nation the world has probably ever seen right now, representing millions of people, and that's your gesture.
Sometimes I wonder what our founding fathers would do if they were brought into a session, the State of the Union, and just watched what's going on and where some people's cognitive abilities, the ability to see the bigger picture, to govern in wisdom and all these things. I mean, it's scary.
Well, it's a concentration of power. It becomes about power, right? And when it's about power, anything goes. Emotionalism works, then that's where they're going with.
This is a point you can't hit too much. We talked about a cohesive worldview, being unified around transcendent values and purposes, which gets back to our belief in God and our belief in the Constitution and all of these things. And anyway, if we don't recover that, and this is a side note, we didn't even plan on talking this, but our Indiana state government has been doing some great things, talking about getting the Ten Commandments back in public places as a foundational document upon which our nation was founded, doing some really, really good things. And then every time, they just launched this initiative to have a partnership between churches and the state where they can work together for the common good. And you got all these leftists, again, the government should have nothing to do with religion and blah, 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 which is a fundamental misunderstanding of how this nation was started and what we were based upon, our Christian worldview, our Christian values. And again, if we lose all of that, we have just raw power. We're just competing for a slot. And Virginia should concern us. We talked about all this. What they're doing in Virginia is nuts. This is why we needed redistricting in Indiana, literally, not gerrymandering, but redistricting, because they are gerrymandering in Virginia. I think I just saw where it's like 10-1 or something like that in seats. I forget, but
yeah, and Virginia's basically a 45-55 state, so that's crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, but it becomes down to raw power. Now this is a true sign and a wonder and miracle. The Democrat that I actually have the most respect for now is John Fetterman. I mean, the guy at least is like, you people are nuts. I shook the president's hand, and now you're going to, lynch me or whatever. I mean, it's just crazy because when he first got into office, I'm thinking, who is this guy running around in sweatpants?
Yeah. Hoodie.
Yeah. But it's crazy that he actually demonstrates more common sense than anybody on that side of the aisle. But anyway, let's talk about what's going on in Iran. What do you think? I mean, there's been a lot of radical, wholesale changes in the geopolitical map, right, in the last month. And this is just another one right on the heels of what took place in Venezuela.
I mean, once again, it's a Friday night, Saturday morning alert on my phone saying something happened, and I woke up 4 o'clock in the morning, like, what's going on here? What's all these different alerts? Yeah. Wow, we launched a bunch of bombing in Iran, and it was strategically targeting their leadership team. And next thing we know that the supreme leader of Iran is now dead, and Trump is making announcements about regime change to the world and specifically to the Iranian people. Now, I don't know about you. In the last 2 days, I have studied and read more about the history of Iran than ever in my life before. I've never paid so much attention to Iran before, quickly catching up to see what's going on. And there's a lot there.
Well, you said like it was back in 1979?
79, the year of my birth.
When the radical kind of Muslim element took over the nation. So they, for 46 years, have been under a true tyrant. I mean, when you hear about the horrific things that have happened to the people over there, and the abuse and the loss of liberty and the other things, I had a quote here from one of our representatives I wanted to read. Well, here we go. Representative Tim Burchett. He said, they hung kids for tweets. They cut women's eyes out for wearing makeup. They threw gay folks off of buildings. They murdered Americans. He says, who will grieve this dirtbag? I appreciate his forthrightness there. This was a wicked, wicked regime. When you see people dancing in the streets and celebrating, I mean, people who live there, you realize that what we did was a great service to them. But the larger question, I guess, is why would we get involved in this activity in the first place? I saw where Matt Walsh and some other commentators were saying, someone tell me how this serves America's interests. So I think that's a good thing, to bring up today. How did it serve America's interests? From what I understand from the military briefings and so forth, those long-range ballistic missiles that they were developing at a rapid rate, was a massive concern because those missiles can reach American targets and American allies. And so there, in and of itself, was reason to get engaged. I think the regime change thing is a good point because we don't want to – sometimes when you get rid of one terrible, terrible leader, you inherit a leader who's 10 times worse. That's a concern. And I think some Americans are concerned that we've just started some war. What's your take on all of that? How do you see that maybe being different from like our involvement back in Afghanistan or something?
I think the difference, again, I don't really know. There's intel that I'm not privy to, and people saying, well, they were going to, the Iran were going to, because they were in the middle of negotiations, and apparently the negotiations not working well. And again, it's like I know last year we incapacitated their nuclear facility in Fordo, but in other places, but that doesn't mean they can't continue doing that. And so when the negotiation broke down, there was like, well, they're going to target us first, or we launch fast. I don't know. I don't know all those things. A couple of things I think the difference from the past potentially is I sort of kind of trust Donald Trump. I think that's kind of the bottom line. I personally believe Trump actually do not like war. He does not like bloodshed. I think he actually cares when our servicemen and other people are killed. I think he actually truly, again, how do I know that? I don't really know. That's how I feel. I feel like he hates war. He hates bloodshed, and he wants it to end as quickly as possible. And he understands politically his base does not want forever war. We don't want to send troops. We don't want to waste our money and dollars. And I think what the Pentagon has produced in the last couple years, the lethality, is that a word?
Yeah.
The speed, the accuracy of how they're able to function with the Israeli intelligence, I think there's a good chance that we can get in and get out. But I don't really know. I think that's the warning, the caution American people and his base has. And it's legitimate.
Absolutely. This is from Randy Fine, Representative Randy Fine. He said the Muslim terrorists that run Iran have just indiscriminately fired rockets, not just at the Jews of Israel, but 700,000 Americans who live there, 180,000 Christians who live there, at the Dome of the Rock, the third holiest site in Islam, and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the site of Jesus' crucifixion. He says, we are fighting back against this evil to save Western civilization, and we will win. What I appreciate about our president is just the strength and decisiveness. He's clear. He negotiates. He tries to avoid war at all costs or military involvement at all costs. But he has clear lines. You're not going to rebuild your nuclear power. You will not have a bomb, and you're going to stop making these missiles because these missiles are a direct threat to the United States and to our allies. There's a clear line. Then he moves the boats. They're right off the coast. We're here. We're here. The deadline's approaching. Are you going to cooperate? And then when they don't cooperate, he does what he said he was going to do. I've always appreciated that about Israel. When Hamas or whatever does what they do, Israel has a direct counterpunch. It's like, you are not going to be a threat to our people. And I think when you put Netanyahu and you put Trump together, they make a formidable team, and they do what they say. And they do it in a measured and targeted way. When you saw what happened on that October 7th situation, Hamas just came in and randomly killed, tortured, maimed, kidnapped men, women, children, babies. I mean, it was disgusting. When the United States and Israel go in, they attack military installations. They attack military leaders and political leaders. They do not just start raining bombs down randomly across civilian populations. So we get into a situation that might be good to talk about this morning from a Christian worldview perspective, is the whole idea of the just war hypothesis, which comes from a rich Christian tradition dating back all the way to Augustine and Aquinas, through basically three major parts. First of all, when is it just to go to war? These are criteria that have to be met before entering a conflict. There has to be, number one, a just cause, a morally legitimate reason, which is typically self-defense or defense of the innocent or resisting aggression, which I think, in my opinion, it was met by this action. Legitimate authority. And again, there's a battle over, is Trump acting on legitimate authority? Neither one of us are constitutional attorneys, but
yeah, my understanding is the War Power Acts gives the president the ability to act for a limited amount of time.
The right intention, the purpose must be to secure justice, restore peace, not revenge, conquest, economic gain, or hatred. What amazes me, again, about our nation is if we wanted to go in and take over the country, we could. We have the firepower to do it. We could have done the same thing in Central and South America. We never do that. That's not our goal. Our goal is always to secure justice or restore peace or get rid of dictators or protect American interests. This is important, too, the probability of success. There has to be a reasonable chance of achieving the goal because hopeless wars only cause needless suffering. So did we pick a fight that we can win and win quickly? I think we did. Last resort, all peaceful alternatives, negotiation, diplomacy, sanctions, must have been genuinely tried and exhausted. Again, we just talked about that. This is what gets me frustrated. This was a quote from Pope Leo. I'm following with deep concern what is happening in the Middle East and in Iran during this tumultuous time. Stability and peace are not achieved through mutual threats, nor through the use of weapons, which sow destruction, suffering, and death, but only through reasonable, sincere, and responsible dialogue. That, to me, is the kind of statements that don't help at all, because he's assuming that we did not try reasonable, sincere, and responsible dialogue, and that peace is never achieved through strength or through the use of war. I mean, I think this is an incredibly naive and politically correct statement for a religious leader to make, but that's not helpful. And actually, politicians are not helpful in these situations either. That's why I so appreciate Trump's actions, because he's not acting like a politician. He's acting like somebody who is a leader who cares for our nation and cares for dealing with these problems that politicians have kind of kicked down the road and failed to have the courage to deal with. So I think it was a last resort. Next point, proportionality. The good expected from going to war must outweigh the expected harm. I think that's a given. The second point, how to conduct a war justly. And the first one is discrimination. Armed forces must distinguish between combatants and non-combatants. Civilians may not be intentionally targeted. This has been something that the United States and Israel have intentionally done over and over and over again. Even with the Gaza situation, there was all kinds of attempts made to get innocent people out of the way so that they would not be harmed. That's not the case of Khomeini and what they were doing, launching missiles indiscriminately into civilian areas. That's not just war. Proportional use of force, military actions must not cause harm and are disproportionate to the military objective. No evil means, certain actions, massacres, torture, rape, the use of indiscriminate weapons, always forbidden, even in war. This is exactly what we've seen from the radical Islamic side, is all of these behavior, massacres, torture, rape, threats of fear, intimidation, all of this stuff, which is why we went over. They had just killed 35,000 of their own people, slaughtered 35,000 of their own people. So again, when I look at this just war, theory here and the things that we're looking to meet, I think that we're well within the moral bounds of the action that was taken. Summary is here. Must be rightful reason to go to war. War has to be fought in a morally restrained way, and peace must be established justly once the war ends. And I think that's the big question mark. Is Trump saying to the Iranian people, hey, we've knocked out these wicked leaders. Now it's up to you guys to fill the gap, elect a leader, and rebuild. That is yet to be seen, but I think the intentions are certainly for a peaceful and prosperous Iran.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely our hope. I get the caution of conservatives who don't want a forever war like Afghanistan or Iraq. I get that we don't want war. We don't want people to die, but sometimes. There are times in which preventative action actually saves lives in the long run. Again, I'm not a geopolitical expert. I don't have intelligence in the area. I just share my emotions. First, when the war happened, I'm like, oh man, it's unstable. Instability. I don't know what's going to happen. Trump's taking the big political risk. What's going to happen in the midterms? Again, all these questions, right? And then I start seeing on my feed all these business leaders, CEOs who have Iranian roots, which I didn't even know about, talking about how their family fled Iran. They had to come to America. They start talking about the heritage of Iran, which is Persian, which I didn't even really know. Yeah. And Persians have deep roots. They're like the Chinese, they're like Jewish people. They have deep roots, thousands of years of heritage, and how Islam is actually not their heritage religion. And even in 1979, before that, they were more of a Western nation. And whatever happened in 1979.
You see those pictures of people walking on the streets, particularly the women who are currently clothed from head to toe in black garments with only slots for their eyes. I mean, and you look at how they dress. It was very Western. Women walking in dresses and high heels on the streets of Tehran, So a lot has changed, and this kind of oppressive regime that's just snuffed out all of that. So again, I'm very, very hopeful. This is what I always tell people, look at who's celebrating and who's not after a certain action. When you see the people dancing in the streets and celebrating freedom, and then you see the only group that's complaining and protesting and already has signs made are the same people who are fighting everything else the administration is doing. It's Democrats and leftists on the streets who are actually saying, leave Iran alone. They have the right to do whatever they want to do, blah, 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 blah. It's the same liberal garbage that we're hearing. That's why even when we said at the beginning, we don't like certain things about Trump's style. But when you look at who's trying to kill him and remove him and keep him from being elected, it kind of gives you an indication that he might be the best candidate for the job. And we've seen that. I mean, who's going to deal with the corruption? Well, he has. Who's going to deal with the rise of radical Islam across the globe? He's going to deal with it. Who's going to protect our interests? He's going to do it. Who's going to keep our southern border secure? And that was one thing he pointed out. It's now down to zero in terms of illegal immigration. Who's going to do all these things? He's going to do it because he's got the courage to do it and the strength of leadership to do it. So again, there's lots of things, style points. I would go, that's a little rough or whatever. But all in all, man, I think this is a big statement, but I think we are witnessing probably one of the greatest transformational leaders, certainly in my lifetime, and perhaps in all time as an American president. His legacy still has 3 more years here, but it's impressive. Whether you like him or not, what he's accomplished is impressive, and I think that's where I've landed after all these things. So a lot going on. We'll try to continue to dialogue from a Christian worldview perspective, but we appreciate you guys watching. Any final comments from you? All right. One other thing I wanted to say. Yeah. Interesting that when the Jewish people went through such persecution, Holocaust, World War II, Nazis, all of that, and then we're liberated and we're looking for a place to go, a place to call home, or a place at least to rebuild their lives. So many of the nations of the world slammed their doors, but it was Iran that actually opened her doors to the Israeli people. So there's not this long-standing hatred between the Persians and the Jews. Actually, quite the opposite. It's Islam that hates the Jews, and that's what we've been witnessing for the last 46 years.
It's definitely bizarre when I saw videos in London of Jews and Iranians celebrating together, or in the streets of D.C. You see the original Iranian flag, the Shah's Iranian flag, American flag, and Jewish flag, all people together celebrating. It was a bizarre scene. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot to pray about. Obviously, we want to continue to pray that there's a revival happening in the church in Iran, from what we understand. Great move of God, people that are longing for freedom, liberty, opportunity, and we just need to continue to pray that happens. So we'll look forward to seeing you guys next Thursday. Thanks for tuning in.